Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Lean Publishing Tip of the Day live stream, where we're going to be talking about your manuscript versions page. Just a little programming note with the format that we're kind of settling on here is that we're going to do about 2 minutes of intro for each of these, so that if you're watching the recording, you can just, and you've seen a few of these intros before, you can just jump to 2 minutes in. And then we're going to try and keep them to about 15 minutes in total. There is, as always, there is an accompanying blog post to go along with the live stream, so that if you miss it, if you jump in late, etc., you just want to, think back about it later. You can find this on our blog at leanpub.com/blog. If you don't see the blog post right there, you can click the magnifying glass and you can search for the keywords. The articles are good because they typically have some helpful links in them and stuff like that. And the video will be at the top, and there will probably be links to some shorts if we can extract anything useful from that at the bottom. As always, if you like these lean publishing tips of the day, please subscribe to the newsletter wherever you find it. You can actually, currently the best place to do it is probably on LinkedIn. If you're a LinkedIn user, you can find the Lean Publishing Tip of the Day newsletter there. We're going to have other places where you can do it as well, but the main place really is YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get all the live streams, our new release videos, book launch videos, podcast videos, explainer videos, other live streams, all kinds of great stuff. So if you like learning about a little bit about lean publishing or self-publishing every day, subscribing to our YouTube channel, learning what other authors are up to and what advice we've kind of got in response to the feedback that we're getting from our community of authors all around the world. That's a really great way to do it. We're live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. We'll add more channels potentially if you ask us to. We can't be live. I think we actually, we know those are the ones that we're live on. Obviously, we're also on Mastodon and Threads and stuff like that. So we're nearing the 2-minute mark. So, okay, here we go. Today on the Lean Publishing Tip of the Day, we're talking about your manuscript versions page. When you write a book on LeanPub, if you're not using our upload writing mode, means you've got your own way of writing your book. You upload a PDF and or an EPUB, and then you just use all our awesome storefront and community features and things like that. But if you're writing your book on LeanPub, this is an amazing thing. The basic fundamental thing about LeanPub is that we've combined the writing and the bookstore together. That's sort of like, I'll probably do another live stream and talk about that, but basically everything's connected. Whenever you make a change to your manuscript and click the button to create a preview, what that does is it creates your book in a PDF and EPUB format for you to review and read online as well, if you have that setting to read in your browser. Or maybe, I think you can only do that currently when you publish, but in any case, when you click the preview, you create a private version of your book from your plain text manuscript on LeanPub. And then you can review it and you can go back to your writing, whether you're doing it in the browser or on your computer or device using our GitHub or Dropbox writing modes. Wherever you're writing your manuscript, you can go make changes. You can click another preview. You can go make more changes. You can click another preview. And then when you're ready, you click the publish button. And what that might be, you've only written one chapter. You click the publish button. Your book is published. It's for sale on LeanPub, maybe just that one chapter. But what happens on LeanPub is, as you add chapters, you could publish a new version of your book. So there's two concepts. There's previewing, which is private review of your changes. And then there's public. There's hitting the publish button, which creates a new public version of your book that everyone who's bought it will obviously get access to and be able to download. And anyone who buys it at that point will get all that current access. Public can be a little bit, we'll have a little bit of a new distinction that I'll explain probably next week when we've got some changes coming out. But basically, you can think of it as preview is private, public, or publish is public. And now the interesting thing is that when you're writing your book this way, particularly in the browser mode, you might be like, what do I do about versions? Personally, when I'm working on any kind of document, whether it's my own writing documents, I wrote a doctorate years ago in English literature, so I'm sort of familiar with long-term hundreds of pages projects that take years and things like that, and just sort of the importance of keeping versions. One thing is, for example, if there's this great turn of phrase that you had a year ago, you might be like, oh, I deleted that, I want that back, how do I find it? The other kind of dimension of my own personal experience with document versioning is with investment banking. Working for a big global investment bank, doing some of them were multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions deals and stuff like that. And in those cases, if you're, say, working on a financial model, keeping a version history is incredibly important. Typically, the way I would do that is I would, like, every time a document is opened, you save as a new version and add one to the number at the end, which would typically be like 1.00, then 1.01, then 1.02. That way, every time, especially if you're collaborating, every time you open it, you save a new version, you can trace the whole history back. Anyone who's watching this, who's a programmer, also knows that version control is incredibly important. This is one of the reasons Git was invented. It's the world's most powerful version control system, and stuff like that. Personally, maybe it's because I don't come from a background as a programmer. One thing I find about Git very annoying, and I'm sure there's solutions to this out there, is that basically the versions are kind of hidden. I know you can do it in various ways, but the way Git normally works, and you normally work with it, it kind of feels like it's kind of lost, and I got to go. It's kind of complicated to find, a kind of commit from the past, or a whole version from the past. And again, I know there are ways of doing it, but it's typically not the way people normally work with it. So anyway, that's all the way of saying version control is very important. There's Word documents, there's documents with words, there's documents with numbers, and there's documents with code. Keeping track of versions is very important, especially if you want to go back and trace the source of the origin of something, or where something was abandoned. If you want to bring it back, etc. Maybe tracing responsibility, things like that is important as well. And because LeanPub books are published in progress, you might say publish, your book. You might publish the third version of your book. You just finished your third chapter. You publish a new version, and someone comes at you and, like, there's like 10 typos in this. You're like, oh my goodness! So you got to go back and you got to publish a new version. That new version you probably wouldn't release with release notes. That's a big release. You would just do it kind of invisibly, as it were. You just hit publish, no release notes to your current readers or anything like that. No big announcement. You just fix some changes, but you're going to want to see the history of this activity. And the good news is that in LeanPub, we built a way of doing this. Let me just start, as usual, from our homepage when I'm showing people how to do things on LeanPub. Start on the LeanPub homepage, click on your avatar on the top right. That opens up what I call the escape hatch. This is the big menu with all the stuff in it. I'm on a big screen here. You might be on a smaller screen when you're using it, but you can just scroll down. And if you want to go to the author side of LeanPub, click on that icon at the top right and just click on author. And here we are on the author kind of dashboard, I guess. Currently we call it author/home. And on this page, you can see where your books section is. So click on books. Here you'll see your books by their status. Are they published, unpublished, stealth, retired, or closed? Let's go to our published books here by just clicking on the menu. And then I'm going to go to the sample. I think I was using the sample nonfiction theme book for the purposes here. So now we're on the book homepage. Personally, I prefer the overview page. It's my go-to page. The overview page for a book. It's basically definitely if you're working on a book, and especially if it's your first time working on LeanPub book, you're going to want to bookmark this, or keep in mind how to find it. This is basically everything you can do on your book on the admin side of things as the author is right here. Everything from the various services that we offer, like getting translations of your book if it's been completed already. Do you want to look at the sales of your book? That's here in the store section. Do you want to change your writing mode? Let's say you were writing in Dropbox mode and you want to switch to GitHub because it's better. And you've learned GitHub since starting using LeanPub. Do you want to change your email notifications? All that kind of stuff can be done from here. You can see that the various sections are named hopefully appropriately. There's services, settings, store. Settings, of course, is kind of catch-all for anyone who's ever designed anything. Store. There's import for the various import ways you can import manuscripts into LeanPub. There's the community section and the help section, but sort of in kind of place of prominence right there on the left under the book cover image and the link to the book's landing page is the versions section. Again, since LeanPub books can be published in progress, and we encourage you to publish early, publish often, and update whenever it's appropriate. Change one typo, update my book. Added a whole new chapter, update my book. We encourage you to, there's various sort of ways of thinking about versions. You can create an InDesign version of your book if you've written it on LeanPub. That's what you would do if you were done, and you wanted to give your book over to a professional book designer or something like that. There's the print-ready PDF if your book is done and you're publishing it on another platform that you want to get it into print using print-on-demand services. This would be Amazon KDP or Ingram Spark in the kind of English language world. Those are the most common, and Europe, I guess, those are the most common services for getting your book into print. So you're going to want a print-ready PDF version of your book. We have an unbranded ebook export thing as well. So if you want to publish the ebook version of your book somewhere, but you don't want the kind of leanpub language on the copyright page, you can strip that out. You can also export your book as a website. It's very cool. I actually haven't even looked at that myself in a long time. That's a very interesting form when you think about, a website is a version of my book. It's a very cool idea, again, because leanpub kind of combines everything together from this one, producing everything from this one plain text manuscript. We can do all this magical stuff. But then there's previewing, which I mentioned before. So to preview a version of your book, you go to the preview page in the versions section, and you just scroll down and you click create a preview. There's a bunch of explanations here. Recommend reading it the first time you come here. You probably won't need to read it more than once, mostly, but this is where you can download them. But you'll also see that there's these timestamp, date and timestamps on the previews. Very, very helpful. One of the reasons actually people use email to sort of for document versioning is because of the date and time that you get with it, which can be very important for memory actually, but also for, tracing activity through the past if you're doing that. So the previews have these date and timestamps. And then when you publish a new version of your book, this demo book was last published in October 2024, a while ago, but that's what demo books are for. You can see the date and timestamp here as well. This should, by the way, that the time, for what it's worth, should be in your local, your local time zone. It used to be UTC, I think. Now it's local time zone. This could be very helpful if you're, working with a team member and stuff like that. Yeah. So just like a previewing, if you want to publish it, scroll to the bottom, maybe read it all the first time you get here. And you can click the publish version to publish your book, the publish button to publish your book. So let's go back to versions here. And let's get to the main event, which is the manuscript versions page. So every time you click the button to preview, we create a little version here. Every time you click the button to publish, we create a little version here. So you can actually see here that since I last published, that you can trace back by looking at the timestamp on the publish page. You can go to the manuscript versions page and you can look for that same timestamp. So I know that if I create an archive here, and that's a pretty simple process, which allows me to kind of sort of download a zip file with my manuscript files. If I do that, I get actually whatever it was that produced the current published version of my book. And to be more precise, the published version on that date. I can create an archive and get a download of that manuscript right there. I can also see that I've previewed a couple times since then. So if I go to my preview page and I download the latest preview, it's probably not going to match the published version because I've probably only created new previews since then, since I, made changes to my manuscript. There's other things that are noted here as well. For example, like notes that I changed to GitHub mode, probably from browser mode or something like that. And you can see that we're sort of when you switch writing modes, we try to be conservative here and save various states. One thing that this might have not been the best book to choose for this live stream, because actually one really cool thing, if you're writing in the browser, we do auto saving. And I think that Medium and other sites do stuff like this as well, where it's like sort of easy to find past versions, but you would see a bunch of auto saves here if this was if this book was in the browser writing mode, which is very cool. So you can go back. There's no names attached to them or anything like that, but there are the dates. And so currently, like it's very helpful if you want to go back and see what kind of work you've done. You can go on the manuscript versions page and create the archive and download the zip file so you can know that everything you've done is saved. Personally, I would recommend downloading, if you're working in the browser writing mode, I would recommend actually have a folder somewhere where you actually download your manuscript every time you publish or every once in a while and stuff like that. So We're approaching the end of our 15 minutes. So here's you can find this blog post accompanying this live stream on our blog at leanpub.com/blog. If you don't see this, just click the magnifying glass and search for the keywords. And of course, if you liked all of this, please like and subscribe on YouTube, etc., wherever you saw this live stream. So thank you very much for everyone for joining us today.